SULFUR is a game that prides itself on how challenging it is. It's very, very difficult, and you'll learn that super quickly. Odds are you won't even make it out of the caves on your first run, or your second, or your third, or your fourth, or your fifth. Eventually you get the hang of it, and eventually you have enough hours in game to make 12,000 1-minute rice things. Those like little bowls, little 1-minute rice. You know what those are, right? You guys are, some of you are poor enough to know what that is, right? Maybe not poor, but also you just need to save time, and you really want that rice. But anyways, I'm not going to waste too much of your time, and we'll get right into this. And this isn't just going to be me spoon-feeding you simple loading screen tips. Those can be helpful and effective. I'm going for more of the hidden tips that the game doesn't really tell you, but they are very helpful and things that you have to look out for, and they should help you get better at the game. And the more you get better at the game, the more you're rewarded with fun guns and eventually just steamrolling everything. You'll get there too. You'll be like me. You'll look like me, talk like me, think like me. Oh, soon you'll alienate everyone you know, and you'll be able to play all the SULFUR you want, I promise. You know those chests you see lying around, the brown ones, the black ones, the red ones? Those all house different items. Sort of. The brown ones can hold just about anything you can think of. Oils, scrolls, weapons, food, ingredients. They have just about anything you can imagine popping out of those. The red ones will only ever have armor, and the black ones will only ever have weapons. So if you come across them expecting one thing, just know you're gonna get what's on the front. You just judge that book by the cover, unless it's the brown one. You can get some crazy stuff out of the brown one. Something that saved me a lot when I was learning the game was the fact that if you go to an amulet charge shrine rune thing, and any enemies are around you, the second you come out of that amulet charging station, all those enemies are dead. So they'll just die. So if you're struggling in an area, you can kite enemies into the shrine room, leave the shrine, and then everyone explodes. Or something. I don't know. You just come back and there's just body parts hanging from the ceiling, and all your problems are solved. Most of the time. Sometimes a couple enemies can squeak through for whatever reason. I guess they're a little bit too strong, but it's really inconsistent. When that happens, it's an off chance. A sort of funny tip that I kind of didn't notice for a long time was if you sell an item to a vendor, any shopkeeper or anything, and then leave and come back to buy that item will now be twice the price it was when you sold it, because they only give you half of the value of whatever it's worth. So buying anything back is going to run you twice as much. So if you're trying to sell multiple things but don't have the inventory space, try to just throw whatever it is on the ground and then run back and do that over and over and over again, because they're just going to try to fleece you. These guys are the smartest businessmen since the dude from Resident Evil 4. What is his name? The merchant, right? Is it just the merchant? You know, what are you buying? What are you selling? That guy. They're about as smart as he is, and he's a freaking genius, I think. You may not know this, but if you hold out a grenade, you'll run at the same sprint speed that you would if you had your blade drawn. So instead of having to smack after every one of those, you could just switch to any throwable grenade and run at the exact same speed. I did see some people a while back saying it had to be the throwing knife, but that's not true. It could be any throwable you want, and you get to run at max sprint speed. There's also a sword glitch you can do by holding down your melee button, opening your inventory, letting go of your melee button, and then closing your inventory, and then the melee will just be stuck like that. So if you don't have a grenade and you don't want to just constantly have your finger on whatever the melee button is, you could do that as well. Something that's really helpful for ranking up guns that are a little bit weaker and not as easy to just kill everything to get the ranks, you know, the stuff like the Knops and Pale Horse Rider, stuff that's just not powerful on its own, is the fact that you can use your sword as long as you have that gun out. So if you have that gun out and you use your sword to kill an enemy, that will give you rank progress for that gun. There's a lot of guns that won't even one-tap the goblins in the caves, so you can go and shoot a goblin in the head and then melee them and still get that rank progress without having to worry. If you don't have any guns on you, for some reason the sword will rank up. Maybe that means eventually we'll have different attributes for melee weapons or even enchanting them. I don't know what that is, or if they ever had something in place for that. And occasionally grenades will rank up too. That one is just real weird. A lot of you probably noticed this right away, but every enemy has a weakness. Like, the humans in town aren't as scary as they seem to be, at least most of them, because you can shoot their mask off and then they start crying like some pussies, and then it's just game over for them. In fact, their other buddies will churn on them. As you go through the game, not all of the humans act that way when you break their masks. Some of them got a little bit more grit than that. And then there's the dogs. The dogs, the rules of nature don't apply to them, and they can do whatever they like. And whatever you do, you'll never truly have a full understanding of the dog's capabilities. So just spray and pray when it comes to them. This is another kind of obvious one, but all the vendors sell one thing in common, and that's ammo. So if you're ever low on ammo, any vendor will help you. Almost all of them sell durability kits, but then you got people like Kevin who don't know why don't you want to help me repair my stuff while I'm on the go, Kevin? God damn it, Kevin. God damn it. Some levels have hidden areas like caves. I'm sure you've seen the explodable walls. Well, did you know that you don't just have to use a grenade, but if you use an explosive weapon and shoot at the ground, you can open the wall? It's definitely a glitch, and eventually that should be fixed where you could just shoot the wall, but, it took me a long time to realize. In fact, I had to be told, thank you for that you have to shoot the ground. It's very strange, but it will work. There's also an area in Dungeon where you'll need the dunce cap to get all the way to the top of this really high, weird column in the middle of the room. And if you get up there, there's always a black chest which contains a weapon. The game might make you think you can only put grenades in your hotbar, but you can actually put any food item you want in there as well. That helps a lot with the big munchies that, are taking up 4 to 6 spaces in your inventory, and you need that extra room for more, eyeballs. You might not have realized it right away, but there are 2 ways to switch weapons in this game, and if you're like me, you always have a grenade in the hotbar, so scrolling through your items can mean you have to scroll through 2 guns, a grenade, or 2 guns and 3 grenades, but you can press Q to go to your last used item, so if you just want to use the guns, probably just press Q and switch between your guns. I don't know, for me it took me a long time to get used to that, and I was frequently freaking out and throwing grenades at people instead of shooting them, and I don't really like the grenades in the game. I'd rather use them for speed, so when I throw them at some guy's face, like one dude, it's a huge waste of my grenade. Now I have to go find another one. So I had to train myself to get better at using Q to swap between weapons. If you've ever seen metal scrap, maybe you saw Ralphie selling it or something, you can actually use that to make stuff like grenades, because cooking isn't just about food, there's other stuff you can make too. You may think you've been doing crit damage to enemies this whole time, but you haven't unless you have specific oils or weapon attachments like scopes that give that crit chance, because the game doesn't have a built-in crit chance. You have to add things to your weapon for that to happen. You'll know when you're hitting a crit when the enemy turns yellow. You never have to ADS, it just has to have any attachment or oil that will let you crit chance. And that crit chance is going to do 200% damage. You get double damage boost. It's not crazy, but it's something. If you've ever been confused why you can't find the shortcut to the last 2 areas, it's because there is none. In fact, only the first 4 areas have an available shortcut to get to them. Caves in the final level are the only areas that will put you out back into the hub, so if you're ever in a lot of danger and you need to escape, don't think twice about using your amulet just to get you out of there and run it again. Speaking of charging your amulet, if you're ever going out on a run and you're scared that you won't be able to make it back, you can actually talk to the old pipe smoker who's hanging out next to your grave, and he'll charge that amulet for you for 1,000 sulf coins. That's pretty good. You can either do that or just run caves again and pretty much get a free amulet charge, but sometimes I don't want to do that. Once you start playing with guns and start making your own builds, you should know about how durability works in this game. Each enchantment, whether it's an oil or a scroll, will use 1 point of durability from your gun. So if you max it out, it's going to take 6 durability per shot. 1 is from the bullet itself, the original bullet, the OG. Now, weapon attachments aren't going to take any weapon durability from you, thankfully. The biggest hidden tip in this game, in my opinion, is learning how to kite. If you've ever played Call of Duty Zombies, kiting is incredibly important, especially when you're underpowered against whatever you're facing. How you kite is pretty simple. You just treat the enemies like a line at the end of a kite. You make them chase you around wherever you are, and this is going to be crucial to beating Dungeon. If you don't learn how to kite, or don't, use kiting in Dungeon your first few times, you will not make it. You're not strong enough. I don't care who you are, you've got to kite them. Even if it means going all the way back to the starting area door, it's just what needs to be done. Once I started kiting, this game felt much easier until I was able to make gun builds that just splatter any enemy I come across. It was the churning point for me. It's where I realized that this game is a lot more like COD Zombies than I thought it was, and it really made the difference. For the most part, those are the hidden tips that I could come up with off the top of my head, but I'm not done, so slow your roll there, bro. We need to talk about some general tips and tricks, just some advice from me that's going to help you along your way in your sulfur journey. For one, I see a lot of people asking, how do I get rid of weapon attachments? How do I get rid of oils and scrolls? You can't. The game has a loading screen that says you cannot do that. Oh my god. Half a stroke in the middle of that. I'm so sorry. But it has a loading screen that says you cannot do that. So, once you put something on that weapon, it's locked in, baby. All right? But it's okay, because part of Sulfur is letting go. I mean, any roguelite is like that. You have to accept that you have to let go sometimes. So if you mess up a weapon and you don't like it, just get rid of it. You'll find another one. You might hear some people saying, you gotta make pizzas, don't waste your time doing anything else. Don't listen to that shit, all right? You've got to learn the ropes of the game before you start working on pizzas and health potions. Maybe not as much health potions, because you can just use 9 rod sops and you'll have a health potion. But what you should do is memorize some of the easier recipes, some of the better ones too, but mostly the easy ones, and work off of those for a while. Like if you're in the caves, you just need broth and cheese and you get 2 fondue. It's a very powerful healing item. It takes up 2 slots, but like I said, you're still learning maybe, so just start learning the basics before you try to go for the stuff that could take multiple runs in different areas to get all the right ingredients. And don't ask, there's no recipe book in this game, so everything's got to be stored up here in the databanks, or I think there's a wiki or something. You could use that if you'd like. If you're like me, you can't stop looting, even if you shouldn't be. You don't have the time. You just can't control the urge to see what's under every rock, every nook and cranny. Just know, if you're looting for the sake of money, you know, I always am, there is kind of a method you should go about as far as what's worth grabbing to sell and what isn't. Every oil, every scroll, usually you want to grab those. Oils take up 1 spot and they could sell for 300 to 800. I mean, that's pretty crazy for 1 spot. But guns, especially rarer guns like the catacoil, can run you, they could get you like 3,000 plus. So those are going to be precedent. You want those things no matter what. Then obviously there's treasure, like the golden figurine and the golden ticket. Those things, again, you want to pick those up no matter what. You want to sell those no matter what. They're going to run you some nice money. Trinkets also get you a lot of money, but when you're early on, you probably don't want to sell too many of your trinkets because they're especially rare unless you run a certain level, which I'm not going to spoil anything, but you can find them easier at one point. Weapon attachments also sell for a decent amount of money. Food and ingredients, not so much. You probably better off just eating your food and ingredients. You can sell stuff like the fondue will get you like 150 sulf coins, so that's something if you're desperately in need of sulf coins. Monster parts are good for selling, especially if you don't know a lot of the recipes that require them because they're a little bit weird. Those can get you like 100, sometimes less, like 30 or 40, but some, you know, you just learn the ones that get you a little bit more. I think the hearts and stuff will get you like 100 sulf coins, which is pretty good when you're starting out. The tricky one is armor. I almost never sell armor because it takes up a huge portion of my inventory, and most of the time it's like 130 to 300 sulf coin for a giant pillow armor thing, and it's like, that doesn't seem worth it. That's not worth my inventory space when I could get 9 oils and make 4,000 or 5,000 sulf coin. I'm not sure if I did the math there. Please don't double check. Something the loading screens say that you might not have experimented with fully is breaking everything. I'm talking every box, every barrel. Look for containers that might be able to open. Sometimes they're very small. Loot everywhere at all times because the smallest, weirdest thing can drop, like a health potion or a golden ticket, and you want those things. Golden ticket's like 5,000 sulf coin. I sound like Scrooge McDuck the more I go along with this. Like I sound like I'm all about the money, honey. And in Sulfur, I kind of am, because there's like 2 things that you're never going to run out of: is ammo and money, because your storage can hold infinite amount of those. If you've not made a backup save yet, you desperately need to make one. Just go make one. If you don't know how to make a backup save, you want to go to this folder, this file path, and save down your Sulfur and Sulfur backup at the end of every night, because you never know what's going to happen in this game, and occasionally it can crash, and bad things can happen, and maybe you die to a glitch that you thought was unfair, and you want to just pull that Sulfur save and that backup save and put it back where it should be by deleting the other ones in this file location. I just recommend having a backup. At the end of every night, I save down my backup, so if anything happens, like my item gets deleted in my inventory, unfortunately that is a glitch right now, and if that happens to me, you bet your ass I do a backup, because it's not fair to me. The game deleted my stuff. It just took it away. Each area actually has specific things that are good to be grinding for in them. Like Caves has the rod sop mushrooms just everywhere, and those can help you make health potions. Sometimes you just need 3, sometimes you need 9, but the one where you need 3 is just that and an herb that you can get in town. And I mean, it's just there's specific things you can grind for in each area. I don't want to get too much into it because I kind of wanted to make a video on that. If you want to see that kind of tutorial guide for each area, let me know. I don't want to get too much into that, like I said, because I want this to be something of a spoiler-free experience for everyone, because this could be someone watching that's never played the game and they're thinking about getting it. I don't want to ruin anything. The strongest builds you can make in this game are going to have an assault rifle or a revolver. It's just what it is. It's just a fact of nature in Sulfur. And you might want to argue that with an LMG or a sniper rifle or something, but it's true because there's only 2 items that will boost damage from any of the weapon types, and that is the trinkets, that is the assault rifle tags, the dog tags, and the sheriff's badge. Of course, there's some armor and stuff you can wear that will boost damage, but I prefer to wear armor that's going to keep me alive more than that, because at that 10% is just maybe a little overkill, or not. It's like negligent. So it's negligent, I guess, is the word I'm going to use there. What are you going to say about it? You're not going to do anything about that. I'm just gonna keep flowing words out my mouth. In Sulfur, you're in a dangerous place, so I must remind you to trust no one. Those screamers in the caves, if you've ever seen them running off, flailing their arms and screaming, they'll come back. They'll come back and they'll bring the whole friggin' army. So be careful. And I'm serious when I say this. If they get hit by anything, they run off and they bring enemies into the room you're in. So trust no one. And this guy, he's actually a terrorist. So yeah, she's the CEO of Ubisoft and Epic Games, and she made the worst Fortnite season you can imagine. Probably the newest one. I haven't played Fortnite in a bit. The one with the cars, that one sucked. Another terrorist. And this guy, he's the worst of them all. The worst in the whole game, possibly. He's subscribed to the homie Dot. Enough said. Total piece of shit, right? My goal with this video was for you to find at least 1 or 2 things that you may not have known, some hidden tips in Sulfur, because it doesn't tell you everything that's going on. In fact, it doesn't tell you most of the things that's going on. It's supposed to be hard. You're not supposed to go in with the blindfold helmet. How did you not figure that out until right now? And if you learned 1 or 2 things, then it's a job well done. It's kind of open-ended what I did here. Some of them were very newbie tips, and some of them were, hey, I didn't realize that. I got 100 hours. I didn't realize that. Maybe a shortcut for you or something. But that's not to say I got everything. You might have something I didn't have on here, so please put it in the comments so I can learn it, somebody else can learn it, and we can all keep playing Sulfur and talking about Sulfur until, someone forces it into a convention. I almost said a convention. Let's start a Sulfur convention. I meant intervention, but when is SulfCon? So we can, cosplay with some Sulfurs. If somebody makes a pair of Sulfurs, even 3D printed, I guess I'll finally have a new hero since Tom Brady retired. This is a Patriots jersey, man. I know our team sucks. What am I supposed to do? I get shit from the guy at Circle K. I come in, I'm wearing this, he's like, your team sucks. And he's a Bills fan. Get over yourself, pal. But either way, I'm yapping too much once again. I can't turn it off. The brain, the switches, the energy drinks, the air I breathe. It all seems to make me be a little crazy.